Hey everyone, hopefully you're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel's Finding Value. Today we're going to do our daily technical analysis, updated commodities, work our way through the dollar, yields, precious metals, and commodities ETFs that I follow. I'm going to interject my financial opinions as we go. And if you need help with anything, check out finding-value.com. That's where I dive a little bit deeper into all of these topics, subjects, individual companies. You can see what my portfolio is, what I am buying real time, and during the question and answer sessions that we have on the weekend, you can ask me whatever questions you like. We still have a discount coupon code going on, Mayday. So let's dive in. Let's take a look and see what's going on today. So we've got the DXY. That's where I normally start. And this still looks good to go higher. So when you break these patterns here, that's your breakout. I am going to stay in this camp until I see something where it wants to fall in reverse. It could be in yields because the DXY follows yields, or it could be something else like a falling crude oil because crude oil is also highly correlated to DXY, but DXY still looks strong on a longer term basis, breaking out of this pattern here, that simple downtrend line. So yes, we could still pull back further, but I would still be saying that we have dollar strength ahead of us. The 2-year yield, it is dropping a little bit. Now, this is what could potentially convince me that the dollar could potentially drop, is if we see a large move lower in the 2-year yield, then I would reconsider what I would think the dollar would do. If I were to put the dollar on top of this, right below it, you can see that you can, as we get the 2-year dropping, the dollar drops with it. You can kind of see the dollar is an extension, in my opinion, of how strong or weak the monetary tightness or weakness is in a currency. And then it's that monetary tightness or weakness that's backing all of this that against other currencies, which gets you the DXY. So if we drop here, I would definitely change in a heartbeat my tune on the DXY. 10-year yield also looking a little bit like we're just consolidating. Are we going to drop lower? I don't know, and we're going to watch and find out. And if we drop like this, we're probably going to see the dollar drop. We'll probably see gold take off to the upside and silver and probably the rest of the commodity complex because you've got a weaker dollar on your hand. And they aren't priced in dollars. That's why it's all important to watch this stuff. Another inverted flag pattern that makes me think we could potentially go lower on the 30-year. So this is the one I'm watching. If we gain back some momentum to the upside, great. If we fall back down, you're going to see me change my mind. Now, crude oil is also a big driver of this. We'll watch crude oil and we'll take a look at that later. TYX TNX ratio, this is a ratio that I've set up, which is the 30-year divided by the 10-year. Whenever you get to these low levels, that's generally a good entry point for precious metals. And when the curve uninverts, that's when precious metals generally take off. That's also when you could potentially have a problem in the market, a slowdown, a big pullback, a scare, something like that does occur. Bond prices are holding steady today. You're up 0.28, and that still looks okay for a potential move higher. So we've got the DXY that's broken to the upside. We've got yields that look like they want to go lower, which is in contrast to the DXY. And we've got bond prices that look like they want to go up, which matches the yields going lower. And then the 2 and 10-year is breaking out to invert the curve even further. So we've got a bunch of data that is not in alignment. I'll just say that. So this is looking like it could go up further and invert the yield curve with the yield curve dropping. Gold, we are down $31 surprisingly with weaker dollar and weaker yields. The yield curve did invert, and gold doesn't like an inverted yield curve. It likes it when it uninverts. but I wouldn't have expected a $30 down day based off that information. But we have broken above this downward trend line, and we are still trending in the upward direction. Silver down a little bit. You can consider it a little bit of a consolidation little area there. I still think this looks good to go higher, which makes me think that we could see yields drop a little bit, and maybe the dollar will drop. Platinum also moving up a little bit of a wick at the top. Lost some momentum throughout the day. I drew these on the tops here where you get a little bit more of a chance of hitting some resistance, but platinum's getting real close to a breakout here, depending on your um, how you draw this. I usually don't hit the tops of the wicks. I usually hit where closing prices are, which are down here. So one could consider this to be a breakout depending on what time frame you choose and if you choose the closing prices. I'm a big closer, closing prices. That's where I generally draw it. So platinum looks really good. Palladium down a little bit today, right against resistance. We are squeezing up against this resistance here, right here, squeezing up on it. So we'll see if we break higher or lower. Not that I'm a huge palladium fan at this exact second. XAU to gold ratio up a little bit. And again, guys, this is looking pretty good because if we do get yields to drop a little bit, I think gold and silver are going to start taking off. And I think the gold and silver mining companies, which we're breaking out of this downtrend right now, are going to explode to the upside. So I think there's a lot of opportunities in the gold and silver mining companies down here. We're at a very cheap valuation. That is what I look for. Tailwind, tailwind, tailwinds. CRB index down a little bit, down 0.61%. Surprising, actually, because I know crude oil was up some. But this does look like that we could pull back a little bit more somewhere in this range down here. Is probably where we're going to end up for the CRB index based off of this large selling pressure move and a weak bounce, and that generally rolls over. Bigger picture view, we're still looking okay though. Not going to be the end of the world if we end up down here. Looking at CRB versus S&P 500, we pulled back a little bit more, and we're still within the pattern. We've got GDX down a little bit. There's a big flag pattern there, and we are still above the trend lines. We got support. The sell-off isn't great here. I am still in the camp that I think we are going to go higher. GDX higher, GDXJ, not much selling pressure, higher, and SILJ. I'm just not seeing the follow through here with the selling pressure if we're going to sell off. This was the beginning of the consolidation. We pulled back a little bit, came back up, new high, new higher low. I think we are probably going to head higher here. And that is congruent with a lower interest rate. Lower interest rate, lower dollar. Crude oil up 1.2%. We're right up against support. Big support through here. That white line going across goes all the way back. Tons and tons of support where we're at. Are we going to break lower? Are we going to break on up? We do have some momentum pressure coming through here, but we have stalled at support. We do have a bearish engulfing here yesterday, but we also just threw in a bullish piercing today. Buyers and sellers are dueling it out at the support level. That's what I can say. And I'll just say this, guys. If we break out of this trend line here, which I think we will at some point, probably over the next couple of months, we're going to run. We're going to run, force, run. And right now on the monthlies, doesn't look that bad here. We just have small selling pressure up against support, and we've got some resistance right above us. So we're trying to break out. We've got support underneath us, resistance above our head, and we're squeezing into the corner here. That little pizza slice there. TTF, nat gas down just a teeny bit, down about 1%. We're above all the support levels. I'm still looking for a move up. Natural gas in America, Henry Hub, ripping it today, up 5.15%. I'm kind of surprised at how fast this has moved on up. We did position on the website in natural gas companies down in this region. And we've been waiting it out, and it looks like it's been moving on up, and the equities have definitely surged higher over this time frame. Our boy XOP, yeah, you know me, down 0.5%, even though crude oil was up 1.2%. We've got a really good setup here on a longer term basis. Shoulder, head, shoulder, inverted head and shoulders with a projection off the page here, $840 on a logarithmic basis. So that's what we see there. We've been pulling back to support and doing a retest. Everything looks okay from a longer term perspective. A little bit of selling pressure still left in this thing. That's why we're getting these big red candlesticks. Maybe we've got a little bit more selling pressure to work our way through. Maybe we retest 147-ish dollars. That could still be in the cards for us. OIH up a little bit. The only thing that gets me concerned here is we get big selling pressure, and the bounces are usually continuation patterns lower. This hasn't had a huge bounce, and I'm not saying that we're going to just drop off a rock or a cliff here. We're not cliff diving here, but we could still bounce like this and then work our way on up. I just don't see the big buying pressure candlesticks in here yet. Profitable Uranium Trust down about 2% today. And is this all the follow through that we will get? Tough to say. I could also pull this down and make it more of a channel looking type deal here. So this one broke to the upside, and then we've got some strong selling pressure last trading session. It followed through, and now we're looking to see what type of move do we get down here? What kind of candlestick? Are we going to get a big bullish candlestick here, hammer candlestick, or whatever it is? That's what we're looking for. URA, it's right at support. We had a little bit of selling pressure here, and we're still squeezing into this corner here. Got a little bit of selling pressure there, which we hit kind of at highs, and we're just paused, consolidating and paused at the moment. Uranium also down a little bit, but we're above support. It doesn't look that bad. But again, it doesn't look like it's just going to rip either. We are running into some selling pressure up here. URNJ also selling off a little bit, but it doesn't look bad. I think it looks good. We're up above support. Let's see if we can put something together here and get the buyers to push us higher. I do think if the buyers can push here, we could get a little bit of a runny. Not running to the upside, a little forced run. URNJ versus URNM, just looking at the ratio here, it still looks good. And what I'm looking at is I'm looking for these big red or big green candlesticks against the big red candlesticks. And we're getting a bunch of bullish engulfings. So all these bullish engulfings kind of add up for a potential release of energy where URNJ could outperform URNM. What does that mean? It means that we're progressing in the uranium bull market and that the juniors are starting to get some retail money. That's where retail generally goes, is the juniors. Not saying that the URNM, URNM also has a lot of juniors in it, a lot of developers. TAN, weaker yields, weaker dollar, and what are we going to see? TAN up a little bit, but it has not broken through that resistance line that's above us. It's got an ugly looking candlestick before it. I'm not convinced that we're just going to rip here unless yields drop to some degree, and yields might not be good for the overall market if yields drop fast and quick. And I mean, we could get a pullback then, depending on how yields fall. Copper up 2.36%, just continuing to rip it. You can see the continuation pattern that we got here. A little bit of a continuation and a move to the upside, still looking great. COPX up 0.65%, not as convincing of a move compared to the underlying metal itself. So, yeah, momentum still to the upside, but it is losing a little bit of momentum. Say that. Lithium up a teeny bit, and we're coming back to this support level. What it looks like. REMX doing the same thing. Well, a little bit different than lithium. You could say that there's also a trend line coming through here, but that's a pretty weak trend line because you only have 2 contact points. But this is looking a little bit weaker in the short term. A little bit of a bearish engulfing there and here. So kind of still bouncing around trying to find support. S&P 500 down just a little bit. Is this a double top? I'm not going to even speculate on it. Let's just watch the price action. Bigger picture view. That's what we've got and what we're playing with. NASDAQ also looking kind of weak. You get this big selling pressure day, and then you get all these little up candlesticks inside of it. A small little harami generally wants to work lower. If we zoom in on it, there it is coming on up, and you can kind of see that this is squeezing on up. And we'll see if we break. These big red candlesticks start showing themselves with distribution, people selling. So what I do is I look for a potential rollover. That's what I'm looking for. Russell 2000 still holding on, but that's not convincing, guys. I'm not convinced that this is just going to rip. Could be a breakout and then a retest where we roll over. But that's only a could be at this time. KRE right up against resistance. We'll see if this thing sells off or if we can punch through. We've got emerging markets. It does like weaker dollar, weaker yields, and I do think that we will work our way on up. XHB, surprised that we didn't get the weaker yields and weaker dollar move higher. And this does look a little bit weak in the short term. Maybe we pull back here with this bearish engulfing that has showed up today. We also had a larger selling pressure move. So maybe we roll over here and head a little bit lower with XHB. It's had a pretty big run here, guys. So we could get a pullback. Moo down just a little bit. Still looks good to work its way on up, trying to work its way on up. If the overall market sells off, it could get dragged down lower with it, though. Iron ore looking good. Iron ore still holding in there. Got a big kind of Livermore accumulation cylinder. I think it'll eventually work its way on up. Nickel still looking good. We were up about 1% today, working its way on up. We've got aluminum also up 1.15%. That's not a reversal candlestick. We've got some big selling pressure through here as well. We'll see if this sticks the landing here and holds, but I still think the pressure is to the downside. Baltic Dry Index up 1.7%, or down 1.7%. Sorry about that. And it still looks okay, working its way on up. We've got Newcastle Coal down 1.68. We've had a trend line break here, and I'm going to be bullish on this because we've broken the downtrend. Even though we were down today, we could get a retest. We could float around here for a little bit, but I would be bullish. Bitcoin up 3%. It's still within the flag pattern. And then we've got Ethereum also in its little pennant formation. Still looks all right. I don't see the big green army showing up yet. We still have a lot of selling pressure candlesticks in here that have dominated the slow moving, weak moves upwards. So there is some pressure still there that needs to kind of work its way on out if we want to bust to the upside. Then SMCI is down 2%. Is that a flag pattern? We'll find out. And NVIDIA also putting in a flag pattern. That still looks good to go higher in the short term. But that's what I've got for today, guys. Thumb up for the content. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the website if you're interested. Again, what is the value on the website? We're going to go through a TradingView training session coming up. A lot of members wanted that, and I can show you how to use TradingView, what we use here that you see every day, and I'll train you guys on how to use it. So that is what's coming up for the next question and answer session. It's going to be on Sunday at 5 p.m. The next training question and answer session that's coming up. I also dive into these individual companies. We can do that with the training session. I'll give you guys a lot of my opinions too, with how I view these markets and how I set up the charts and going into it, kind of my viewpoint. So we'll have that coming up this weekend. All right, guys, we'll catch you later. This is Finding Value.